you either suffer from end-stage organ failure, that is kidney or liver, or you got extended and advanced pancreatic or liver cancer. And I hope there's no one in the audience that needs my services now or in the future. I wasn't quite sure how I got this on this illustrious panel. I was initially asked to talk about a very small area in medicine, that's transplantation, the cuts that would occur if Proposition 100 does not pass. But then I took a larger look at what the implications are on healthcare in the state of Arizona. And the first slide really shows the cuts and their consequences. We are looking at about a $2.7 billion cut in healthcare related cost reductions. And the impact of these cuts are tremendous. 310,000 people will lose access coverage. I mean, that's probably 150,000 families. 40 to 50,000 jobs will be lost in the healthcare business, in hospitals, in clinics, pharmacies, I mean, everywhere across the state. I don't think we can fool ourselves. This will also result in an increase in insurance premiums and a decrease in medical services. As a result of that, there will be more uninsured who will flock into the emergency departments, and the hospitals will not be compensated. And we're less competitive. And we're already less competitive because we have a lower number of physicians in this state per capita than most other states in the country. So if Proposition 100 does not pass, healthcare, education, public safety services will be cut by almost $900 million. Equally important is that Arizona will lose about $440 million federal government matching funds. I mean, that's money that we get from the federal government that we leave on the table. The total economic loss, and this is a study that was published recently by the University of Arizona, with combined state and federal cuts, is estimated to be about 20,000 jobs. Again, that's about 15,000 families affected, 960 million labor income, and about 1.7 billion in gross sales. The Arizona university system will face a $107 million budget reduction. 42 million of that will go against the University of Arizona, and I'll talk about that in a minute. So if we look at the impact of the proposed cuts on access just for the fiscal year 2011, as I mentioned, 310,000 Arizonans will lose health benefits. Equally important, 47,000 children will lose health benefits. I mean, this is not a scenario from some communist country where suddenly an earthquake hit and, I mean, no one has insurance coverage anymore. I mean, this is in the midst of the richest country on the planet. 300,000 Arizonans losing health care, 47 children losing health benefits. I mean, it's just unbelievable. Access enrollees will no longer receive emergency dental services. For example, I mean, there are others. Insulin pumps for diabetics, for dietary care for those patients that have ulcers on their feet, or certain transplant services. I will get into that in a minute. There's the potential for eliminating mental health services. I mean, tens of thousands would be affected. Access will have the discretion to freeze or reduce provider rates. Well, you may take, because well, these doctors make enough money anyway. But the bottom line is if I train my residents these days, they come out from college courses, they usually have hundreds of thousands of dollars in loans just to go through medical school and so forth. And they have to pay it. I mean, as long as, I mean, they work. Many of them have children, and you know how difficult it is sometimes to make these payments. Impact on Arizona healthcare. We definitely will see an increase in hospital uncompensated care. What that means is more and more hospitals will go into the red, particularly in rural areas. And hospitals in rural areas that are underserved already will lose more hospitals than we have ever seen before. We will see an increase in the hidden healthcare tax. And the worsening of the existing shortage of physicians is very, very real. The impact on the University of Arizona. The University of Arizona is currently in a gigantic struggle on several fronts. First of all, we have the mandate given by the legislature to build a medical school in Phoenix, but basically without money coming from the legislature. So, I mean, of course you can build a medical school there in name, but if you don't have a hospital to run that medical school, I mean, you can train your future doctors. So we're looking at a huge issue there. On the positive side, the healthcare plan and UMC are currently involved in a merger. And it looks as if, in fact, we are able to form one company within the next few months, which will eventually benefit not only the practice plan, the hospital, the university, but the entire community in southern Arizona. There will be lack of competitiveness because we cannot hire the people that we would like to hire. There will be a loss in educational quality, and there will be a reduction in medical services at UMC. Now, as always, these healthcare cuts will have the greatest impact on the most vulnerable populations. Low-income working families, salaries less than $30,000 per year for families of 4, children and youth, and again the seniors. Now let me talk about what I was originally asked to talk about. And those numbers are very small compared to the number that I gave you before. The current policies that are going to be employed by June 16 will go into effect and eliminate liver transplants for patients with hepatitis C and with, as a result of the hepatitis C, with liver tumors. Currently, between the 3 transplant centers here, Banner and the Mayo, we have 51 patients listed. Heart transplant patients for so-called non-ischemic cardiomyopathy, primarily children with congenital malformations or women that develop that disease after giving birth, after recent pregnancy, will be affected. Lung transplantation for those patients with end-stage lung disease are affected. And then diabetic patients who wish to undergo pancreas transplant. So more likely than not, we will have a total of 24 patients that will undergo a transplant or will undergo a transplant next year at estimated costs of $3.3 million. This is what we're really facing. These patients, these 23 or 24 patients that I just mentioned that would undergo transplantation next year, are the patients that underwent transplantation since 2007. The bottom line is these patients would be dead today if we had not transplanted them. And I don't think, if we want to put a face in something, there's nothing probably more striking than saving someone's life because he or she has non-self-inflicted end organ stage failure. So all these patients will not be alive anymore. And as of next year, we will have these 24 patients, other phases, that are no longer alive because we can't afford doing it. So again, speaking along the choir, I think we cannot afford not to pass Proposition 100. It's way too important. I think, you're going to hear from each one of us the different aspects. I personally, because I'm in that business, healthcare and education are probably the most precious, the most precious items that we're dealing with. And I don't want to belittle, of course, prisons and everything else. but I have to make a point for what I'm standing for, obviously. But we cannot afford not to pass Proposition 100 and fall behind other states in the country and also behind other countries in the world. As I mentioned, it's the richest country on the planet. We have an obligation for our children and grandchildren to continue what our parents have done, move in the right direction, and voting yes on Proposition 100 is just that. Thank you very much.